Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the journey of writing a book, and I have a writer with me who has written a great book. So we'll talk about his book and the tips and tricks. If you are a writer, if you are a beginner, and how you should start and continue your journey towards writing a book. So welcome, Kishan. How are you?
Cheers, Jane. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here on your podcast again.
Thank you so much for coming. So let's start with talking about your book, the book that you have written,
Mm.
and your journey in the writing of the book. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. The book is called Diary of a Pilgrim,
Yeah.
and it's 9 entries. So 9 days that I was actually in India on a pilgrimage going to Shikarji, which is on
Oh,
the East Coast.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even have the idea of writing a book before I went to Shikarji. It was just um, I was blessed to be a part of my guru's pilgrimage, and the
Yeah.
journey actually of the book starts um, 9 months before that. So
Mm,
in 2015, in January 31st, 2015, I held a concert in London to raise money for charity, and that was actually to release my third book then. And
okay.
the book was great. Like it was a very small book. It was only 9 poems that time, and my guru came actually on Valentine's Day that year to London to
Hmm.
visit, like, on one of his trips. So he
Yeah.
asked me about my book and my previous book and my concert and how much money I raised for charity and all those things. And then I told him that at the end of the year, the Shikaji trip was being planned by the mission, my guru's mission and stuff. And I
Hmm.
told him that I'm gonna come and I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. And he just looked at me and he said, "You can say a poem to me every day." So that was just a real blessing, and it really excited me that I would have an opportunity to say a poem to me every day when I got to India. So then, obviously, December came, and we
Hmm.
flew to Mumbai because the trip was starting in Mumbai. We were taking a train all the way from Mumbai to the east coast of India, which was going to take like 36 hours, and it was
Yeah.
amazing because the whole train, it was like a special train that
Yeah.
they'd planned. So the whole train was just people full of people who are on the pilgrimage together,
Hmm.
and we had a whole cabin, like a whole in the second cabin or something, that was just for youth. So youth from all around the world, from like New York, California, Singapore, Australia, Canada, and it was really magical to like meet so many people that I kind of knew already, but it was
Yeah.
just like amazing to meet all these people around the world and traveling together.
Hmm.
So we got to Varanasi. That was our first stop, and on the 24th of December. And we were on the satsang hall, and my guru was giving us satsang. And I was just sitting there, and I had the thought that, oh, you could say a poem to me every day. Like it was in my mind. And there's around 2,000 people on this pilgrimage. So it was impossible for me to speak to my guru on my first day or any of the days actually. So I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
decided that instead I'm just going to write something on my phone, like in my
Hmm.
notes, and every
Like
day
a
I'll write
journal.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because he had told me that you can say a poem to me every day, like a diary, essentially. I was going
Hmm.
to write just a small poem on my phone every single day, just so that he knows that I was thinking of him and I was thinking of what he said to me. So that happened continuously. So every day we were in different parts of India, exploring different things, and
Hmm.
different ideas kept coming to me. And it was really strange because up until the seventh day, I was still thinking about the book that I had released in January, the one that I did the concert for, and I was thinking, how am I going to get that book to
So
everybody
is this
here, and
your
how am I
like
going to?
third book? Yeah.
This is my fourth book. So
Fourth
I'd
book. Okay.
written so yeah, so I can explain the journey of all the books before that, but let me just finish
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
story
Sure.
here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So yeah, so I was still thinking in my head the third book, which I did a concert for. How am I going to get that out? And then on the seventh day, it was the day before we were climbing Shugaji actually, and Gurudev was giving a satsang, and he said one sentence that still I think about all the time, and he said that misery only occurs when you argue with reality. And I
Hmm.
realized that, like, the reality was that I was here, that I was on this pilgrimage, I was in Shikaji, and I needed to let go of the idea of my third book and just park it and just enjoy the moment, like enjoy the fact that I'm on this pilgrimage, enjoy the fact that I'm here with my guru. Like Shikaji is one of the most special and pious uh, pilgrimages in
Yeah,
Jainism.
there are
So
20
as you would know,
Tirthakaras who achieved nirvana, who
exactly,
achieved moksha.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
So it
was there
probably
last
is
year
the.
before lockdown itself, so I remember the
There you go.
energy and the pureness, the purity of that place, that Tirth Kshetra. Yeah.
There you go. So, as you know as well, then that you have to wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning. So this was 31st of December now, 2015. So New Year's Eve, and we woke up around 4 o'clock in the morning, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like I just felt fresh, like proper ready for the journey. The energy was just something else because there's 2,000 people here, like come from all around the world just to climb this holy mountain.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had decided already that I was going to do the whole thing in one, so like in silence, like the whole climb up. So I started walking with like my youth group, and then I realized that if I'm going to do this in silence, that I might as well just walk by myself. So I started
Yeah.
going ahead, and I'm normally a slow walker, but
Mhm.
that day I just felt like there was a magnet at the top of the mountain, like pulling me up.
Yeah,
And while I was walking,
it was really
yeah,
same with
like
me too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because I
exactly.
never thought
And
that
then
I'll complete the entire yatra, but I was able
yeah,
to do it. And
yeah,
it's something impossible
honestly,
for a guy like me, because like especially for someone who is quite not active enough, or
yeah.
yeah, not fit enough, it's difficult. Yeah.
And that's actually so true because there's so many people from different ages and different
Yeah, yeah.
body
Like
types,
people,
and
most of the people
everybody's
complete it. Like it's something is
exactly,
there. Like it's like
definitely.
just like you said, that magnet which is just pulling us towards the
Mm,
top. Yeah.
definitely. So I think like an half an hour into my or 45 minutes into my climb, I was
Mhm.
thinking, okay, so I've written every single day so far. What am I gonna write today? And I'm telling you, all of a sudden, like a flash, the whole idea of Diary of a Pilgrim, every single thing that I've written so far isn't just a poem or a short writing in my notes. It's actually an idea that needs to be explored. The
Yeah.
color of the book, the pages of the book, everything came to me in like in a flash, and I
Mhm.
knew that the next book is journey has begun. So and honestly, like in that moment, I felt that I'd already walked this mountain 1,000 times in like past lives and stuff. I had this overwhelming feeling. So
Mhm.
then I walked up the mountain. I did the whole yatra, came down again, and the next day was New Year's Day, and it was just a wonderful way to start like a new year, and I felt like a new chapter in my own life. So at the time, actually, in my worldly life, let's say, I was actually becoming a teacher. So I was studying to become a mathematics teacher, and I still
Oh.
had a few months left. Yeah, so
Mhm.
in my material life, I was becoming a teacher, and now I had this idea of my next book, and it felt so pivotal. It felt like it was going to change my life. So that was how the inspiration of the book came. And then from 2016 to 2019, so 3 years was the whole journey of writing the book. I actually became a maths teacher then with my guru's grace. I got to leave the profession of teaching and focus on writing. I worked for
Mhm.
a charity as well for 6 months during that time. And then in 2019, on the 3rd of January 2019, my guru was in London and he released the book for me in front of our whole community. And then he told me the day before, actually, on the 2nd of January, to come travel the world with him to be able to give the book out and just explore myself. So in 2019, before coronavirus, which seems like a real
Mhm.
blessing now, I got to travel with him from March to January,
Yeah.
so around 10 months, and I went around the whole world promoting my book and meeting different kinds of people and being with him, which was the best time of my life. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a short introduction to the inspiration and what happened with
Yeah,
the book.
it's an amazing uh, journey about writing the book. But especially the thing is that it was not planned. Like it was not something which
Mm,
was pre-planned. It was just impulsive, something that just came and you just wrote. And that's the thing about writing. Many times the ideas just come, like, and
mm,
those ideas are just amazing ideas, but somehow a person is not able to take the step to just write it down, like the very basic starting to write, the inspiration comes, but somehow uh,
Mm.
usually people get just to write, just to start writing is such a difficult thing initially. So
Yeah, I think
yeah, yeah.
this into whole writer might help when you, because you're right, we get inspiration over time, but we hardly like act on upon our inspiration. So
Yeah,
in
it's the same
2011,
thing in yeah, yeah, it's similar
I
in
was in
spirituality too.
university, I was
Yeah,
studying mathematics, and I was staying with a few people who are rappers and freestylers, and
yeah. Hmm.
that helped me like
Your audio is not
like
coming.
rapping and writing, and they were if you know what freestyling is,
Hmm.
freestyling is when you just put some words together and you just
Yeah,
start
yeah,
rhyming words.
yeah.
So I was in that bubble already, and because I was there, I started doing it myself. So I started putting some words together, and
Hmm.
at the same time, um, my guru had come into my life in like 2004, but our youth group was formed in 2009. And it
Hmm.
was a group of people that used to meet and ask questions about Jainism and explore Jainism together and Eastern philosophy and
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
these big questions. So when I was writing, all of a sudden these big ideas or this introspection started coming into my words. And I didn't even know that this is what I was feeling inside sometimes. And honestly, it became like an addiction for me. So
Hmm.
I used to write like poetry or raps all the time. And then in 2011, I actually there was a play happening. Gurudev was coming here, and my youth group were doing a play. And
Hmm.
I'd written like a whole poem, and I performed in front of my whole group for the first time. And I got to meet my guru, and I told him that writing is something that I love doing and something that I want to continue to do. And he told me to continue. He said, "Don't stop, just continue writing." And then I asked him that, can I have a name, because all my favorite rappers have different names. So like J. Cole, Nas, like all these
Yeah, yeah.
people have different names to the actual name.
Yeah.
So like MF Doom, for example. So and also like being a superhero fan, I've always liked having different names.
Hmm.
So so he told me, yeah, email me and I will tell you, I will guide you to the right name. So that was in like November 2011. And then in July the 3rd, 2012 was an extremely special day for me because my guru had come for Guru Purnima that year.
Hmm.
And on that, so July the 3rd, 2012 is actually my grandparents' 50th anniversary. And it was
Okay.
Guru Purnima on that day.
Hmm.
And my name is Third as well. So, and my guru on that day blessed me for the name Third. So Third is spelled with three I's, so Thiiird. And it
Yeah,
means
what was
three
the
things. So
reason behind that
yeah,
spelling?
sure. Yeah, so the first I represents, for me, there's always going to be like a higher power or Tirthankars or Bhagwans or God, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
And that's, they will always be first. And second is somebody that takes you there. So for me, it was my guru, or it could be somebody's grandparents, so it could be any a medium, essentially.
Hmm.
So for me, that was my guru, which will all be second, and I am third. So that's the first I. The second I represents the fact that my grandparents will always be number one to me. Like they'd completely raised me for like most of my life, and they will
Hmm.
always be the ones that will always remain first. Then my parents would be second, obviously for the sacrifices they've made to have me to have my own life. And
Yeah.
finally, I'm third as well. And then the final I represents the whole idea of a third eye, or being a witness, or seeing yourself as a participant and not an active person in society, and
Hmm.
seeing yourself from a third person's point of view. So those are the three reasons I call myself third, and they all represent the three eyes in third. So
Yeah.
yeah, so in 2012, that was the time where I was blessed on July the 3rd as the name spoken. Well, it was actually third then, and then it became spoken third. And so because of that, and because of the blessing, when my guru came the year afterwards, in I think it was August 2013, I had written him a book of my favorite poems from that year, like 7 poems, just to make sure that he knows that I'm taking my name seriously. Like I'm not just, it was not just an idea that I wanted to be a writer. So I gave him a book. It was literally like A4 pieces of paper put together. And then he took it and he blessed me with it and he gave it back to me and he signed it for me. And the year after, so this is now 2014, I gave him a second book. And again, it was the best poems that I'd written that year. And then again, he
Mm,
took it and he blessed me with it. And that was when I decided that, okay, fine, now I've done two books with just the best poems. Like, I'm going to write a third book. I'm going to complete the series. My name is Third. I'm going to write three books. This time, instead of me just thinking of the best poems that I've written that year, let me actually write a book in the sense of a start, a middle, an end, like having something complete. And we think about it before writing it. And so this time, like, I wrote every single title of each chapter, and now it became from seven poems, it became nine poems, and it had three sections: body, mind, soul. And I'd written the titles first, then I wrote the poetry, and that was the book that was released in January 2015 when I had my concert. So that was that book.
mm,
So yeah, so when Diary of a Pilgrim came out, because I already had three books written before,
experience, yeah.
and had the experience, I knew what it meant to write a book. I knew the sacrifices and how long it was going to take me. And again, because I kind of had each chapter already written for me, because I'd done all that while I was in India, I knew what the
Yeah.
chapters were going to be. But then the
Mm,
hard part starts, and that is, yeah. So then the hard part starts. But that's why it was easier for me to write this book, because I already had experience of writing, and by that time, I consider myself a writer, even though nobody else considered me a
yeah.
writer around me.
Yeah, so basically, any person who is willing to write but he has never written anything, they should just start writing
Mm,
anything. Like even a page, even a
100%.
poem, even a rap, or even a song, anything that they wish to write, just write it. Don't care about whether it is going to be a good or bad. Don't be judgmental about it. Just start writing. Uh, so I think that's
Yeah,
the very basic tip for someone who just wants to start writing.
100%. Like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like, you have to be consistent, and
Yeah, that
so
comes
even
the
writing,
that's the next step, because just
yeah,
beginning something is really important. Once it is started, now comes the step of continuation, that how to
yeah,
continue it.
correct.
So for that, what do you say about it, like the continuation
Yeah,
part?
so
Yeah.
I do step one and step two together. So step one, about just writing. For me, like, this is how I think. Like, I was never going to pursue something that I didn't think I was good at. So when
Mhm.
I started writing poetry back in 2011, 2012, and then onwards, I shared it with a few people around me, and they all said, from different backgrounds and different kinds of people, said that I was
Yeah.
good, and I was connecting, and I had done some performances in some poetry nights and stuff, and I had great reactions. So that gave me the encouragement to continue. So, like,
Mhm.
sharing and sharing people around you. Because for me, like, if I wasn't good, I wasn't going to waste my time in doing it, because I know the amount of time and energy it takes to be really good at something. And then it's about turning up. It sounds very. It's not a great tip, but it's the best tip, in the sense. It's not that deep, but it's so true. You have to be consistent. Turn up every single day, even though you may not write one word, or
Mhm.
you might write 10 words, or you write 100 words. At least be present, be there, sit there, sit in front of your laptop. And I think a great quote by actually Winston Churchill really helped me. He said that success is going from failure to failure with the same enthusiasm. Like,
Yeah.
sit there, like, fail, but fail forward, and fail again and fail forward. So just, you've got to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And
Mhm.
eventually, at the end of the day, some days nothing comes, but some days a lot came. And that's how it worked
Yeah.
for me. Like, some days I wasn't inspired to anything. And then towards the end, I just set myself very strict deadlines. Like, I said,
Mhm.
like, okay, on this day I have to finish. And honestly, that gave me the pressure and the impetus to just finish some parts of the book, because
Mhm.
um, you can get to a place where, because it got to a place where I had spent so much time reading the same things over and over and over again. I couldn't like find the route out. So I'd give myself 2-3 weeks of not even reading anything to do with my book, and then come back
Mhm.
to it. So yeah, there's little tips that you have to do, but number
Yeah,
one
but
is
yeah,
staying consistent.
many a times when let's say someone is writing a book, and let's say he's on
Mm,
the chapter 3, but it
Yeah.
might happen that the flow is gone, and the like, let's say it's a fiction book and there's some character development which
Mm.
is going, which should be happening, and it's really sometimes it's difficult. It's like you have to just be the book until you complete the book,
Yeah.
because if you are distracted, or if you like if you don't be consistent enough, the chances are that the perfection that should have been happening will not happen,
Mm.
because every, like in fiction, there is a character, there's character development, and the way it has progressed the story or anything. So do you think that people should write chapter wise, or like there are many people who would write conclusion first and then like write the story?
Mm.
So is it some pattern or anything, or how should one
That's a
approach?
that's a good question. So with my book, so there's 9 chapters, right?
Hmm.
And so each of them are pretty independent chapters because they were about thoughts. They're a spiritual book, apart from chapter
Yeah,
eight.
so there was no
So
continuation
every
something. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so apart from chapter eight is completely different. So
yeah.
from 1 to 7 and 9, they were independent chapters. So I could write them like in different orders, because
Yeah, so it's
it didn't matter
easier.
to me
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that
true.
sense. Yeah. But for chapter 8 is actually a story, which is 11 poems long. And that
Oh.
was very tough for me because
Hmm.
I'd what I realized was when I was writing some things, like I create boundaries for myself. So for example, I thought that chapter 8 would only be 8 poems long, right? So I written the first 5 poems, and it had a flow, like it's a story. So it's about this boy, and like he goes into the forest and he gets lost, and he finds this perfect stranger,
Hmm.
etc., etc. And it got to part 5, and that the first 5 were perfect. It was complete, and because I said to myself, "Oh, it's chapter 8 has to be 8 poems," I was
Hmm.
trying to finish the rest of the story within 3 poems, and I was finding it so tough to do that. And I realized that I had to break this idea of this 8 chapter 8 poems. So it became from 8. I added 3 more poems to make it flow more. And for me, for that chapter, I've written a whole graph. Like
Hmm.
this is how it helped me. So I wrote a graph about like the emotion of the story. Like when do I want it to be like this? When is the turns going to be? How is it going to be? How is the audience going to go through this
So it
story?
was
What are
all
the emotions of the audience
pre-planned,
going to
like
be like?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Hmm.
so because what I wanted the audience to be scared here. I wanted the audience to be curious here. I wanted the audience to be like, oh, wondering what's happening next in this moment, like suspenseful. And then even
Okay.
the ending,
Yeah.
I wanted it to be a slight twist at the end. So how is it going to bring the twist around? So all
Yeah,
these
many
things were
times.
pre-planned.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Many times it's like if we think of writing, okay, starting is really difficult to just start, and then comes the continuation part. But then the end, the conclusion. Do you think it's
Mm.
difficult, or it becomes much easier to just conclude the story, or in a very high note? Yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously, like you want the ending to be the see, like you want people to be hooked in from the beginning, then you
Hmm.
want to keeps people's interest in the middle, and then you want them to leave with something sensational towards the end,
Yeah.
right? So that's obviously the hallmarks of a perfect story. But
Hmm.
again, and also you have to free yourself from expectation too, because some people may absolutely love it, and some people may not
Yeah,
even
it's also very
like it
objective. Yeah, yeah.
at all. Yeah, subjective. So at the end of the day, you can only do your best. But for
Hmm.
me, it was all about the planning. It's patience, time, and planning, and deep, deep thought. And for me, it was about being obsessed. Like from when I was writing the book, there wasn't like a day or an hour of my day for 3 years where I didn't think about the book. Like I was constantly thinking
Yeah,
about
you
it.
just become a part of book. Like you feel that.
It was everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true,
Like I
true.
remember, like I told you, like I was a school teacher, right?
Hmm.
So I I don't know, like in here we have mock examinations. So it was like GCSE students were doing their exams in the hall. So it was a mocks, and I was
Hmm.
an invigilator. So I was the one in the exam hall, just making sure no one's cheating and this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
And normally it's a very boring experience because for like 2 hours you just have to walk around a hall, a room, not doing anything as a teacher while the students are doing their exam. But
Yeah.
for me, that I remember that 2 hours went by like it was 20 minutes because I was just thinking about, okay, chapter one, let's go through again. Chapter two, let's go through it again. It was so a wonderful experience for me because I wouldn't waste the moment. If I had 5 minutes spare of free time, it would be about the book. It would be about, okay, what's gonna happen now? What do I have to finish? How can I make this idea more succinct? What example can I use over here? And it was, at the time, I missed those times as well writing the book, but again, it was very stressful and it was a lot of energy going into it as well. So yeah, I think again, like if you're gonna write a book, you have to be obsessed by it. It has to overtake every single
Yeah.
part of you, and only then for me you can have that real deep um thinking which translates in the words of your book.
Hmm. True, true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then, okay, let's say the book has been completed. It has a very good
Mm,
start, a good continuation, a great conclusion. But then comes the more business aspect about it, about publishing it.
yeah.
Like, what is the
Mm.
procedure? How can a person publish his works?
That's a very, very good question. So, for
Hmm.
me, because I live in London, and this was the first three books I did just for me and my guru, really essentially. And I printed a few of the second book, but I just sold it at the concert. And for this one, it was completely different. So, I did two things. I emailed a few publishers, and I just decided that because this book was so close to me, I didn't think that anybody in England would understand the Jane references, the
Yeah, it's
Eastern
possible that no
I
publisher might accept it all, and
exactly.
yeah. So for
And
that,
also
yeah,
my book is completely color. Like I had an actual designer design every single page. So each page looks like old pages, like those tea stained pages and stuff like that. So I have a very like aesthetic look for the book, and having it all color again for publishers, it's quite expensive for them. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
decided that for this book, I'm going to self-publish it. So
So how
actually my
does
sister,
self-publishing work?
yeah, so my sister really helped me. She actually helped me throughout the whole process, but especially for this end. So
Hmm.
we bought our own ISBN numbers. We put it through like a Nielsen system where people can find it online. We went through the whole self-publishing. There's loads of tools online which will help you self-publish, but we got our own printers.
Yeah, from
We printed our
designers
own,
to printers, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
printers, designers. We
So
paid
don't you
for the
think
whole
it's quite
printing.
expensive to self-publish? Like,
Of
it's not going to uh, like make profit if we self-publish, or is it possible?
Well, it
Of
depends
course, the
on where
motive is
you
not to
publish
earn
it.
profit, but at least break even.
Yeah, I think luckily for me, because I had an audience and I travel around the world, I got to sell so many books so far that I've actually luckily at the moment I'm okay in that aspect. But I
Yeah.
printed the books in India. So the printing in India was so much more cheaper for me. And obviously
Yes, yes,
because
that's true.
it was
Yeah.
all in color, I sold it for a higher price only
Hmm.
because it's a colorful book, and it's full of color and art and all these things. So you have to think about it that way. But you're right. Like obviously, I think there's other ways of getting books printed as well. Like for example, on Amazon, eh, I think that they don't print it in advance. So when somebody orders a book, they print it then and then they sell it. So that's
Yes,
probably more
yes.
of a better business strategy in that sense. And if I was probably going to do it again, like you
Hmm.
learn so much from the business aspect of things and how to publish things. And going through a publisher is probably much more easier in that sense because they help you with a few more things.
Yeah, yeah,
But
true, true.
when I was traveling, I did meet with a publisher in New York, and we did speak. But again, um, I didn't. I wasn't comfortable with this book to go through a publisher. But yeah, my next
Hmm.
book or the book after that, I will probably maybe I won't have it in color this time. Maybe it will just be black and white. So it's easier for publishers to take that on board.
Yes.
So yeah, so there's things that you have to think about, and for you have to send them like for me because the book was already finished, I could send
Hmm.
publishers the entire book, but normally they ask for the first three chapters of the book and a storyline and a chapter breakdown and all these things when you're sending to publishers. But that's how I did it. I self-published it, and
Yeah.
for me, it was a freeing moment that I could actually do something by myself. I didn't have to rely on other people. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think for other books, I probably would go for a publisher.
Yeah, true, true, true. Especially if books are more commercial books and such, it's
Mm.
better to go to a publisher compared to a book which
Yeah,
is very
definitely.
close to you. Like there are many emotions attached to the book. It's great to
Mm.
self-publish it because you can publish it the way you want. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
in
definitely.
this day and age, do you think that reading books, like there are readers who read book? Of course there are, but do you think it's like a mainstream thing now? Because after, like,
Mm.
books have become like secondary nowadays among youth. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think there's so many mediums now for information.
Yeah,
There's
like
YouTube, there's
audiobooks
podcasts,
are there. People prefer, many people
audiobooks.
I've seen who prefer audiobooks more, or they would rather listen to things than just to go and read them. So I
No,
think
I agree. And even myself, like I listen to audiobooks, I listen to podcasts, I have my own podcast,
mm,
and like you have your own one too. And there's YouTube, there's
yeah,
Netflix,
yeah.
there's all these other forms of distraction. But what I found quite interestingly actually is over lockdown and a lot of my friends now, I think people are understanding the shallowness of a lot of these mediums and how books
Yes,
can
yes.
really ground you and they can give you it can get lost in it and you can use your imagination and your mind just
Mm,
works more. So at the end of the day, I think books will always be there. They always have been, and they always will be. I think they're very intrinsic to how humans have explored the world. We'll see what generations in the future have in store, but I think
yes,
for
yes.
now, you have to keep persisting. You have to be optimistic. And there's something special about a book, like they still have this. It's an ancient tradition, writing and our holy books, our holy text, they will come from
Mm.
books. So
Like
there's a lot
majorly
of
the religions are
culture.
based on the
Yeah,
scriptures. Yeah.
exactly. So there's a cultural, real, fundamental, I think, when it comes to books. So in
Hmm.
that sense, books will always be there. And how do we get the new generation to read more? I don't know. I actually
I think
don't know,
the
but
digitality,
it's
like
interesting.
it has, the technology has helped in a way. Like for example, the
Mm,
Kindle or all those things just help readers to make books more convenient. Reading books and
definitely,
carrying them and traveling them and storing them becomes more convenient through technology. So
definitely.
even that helps a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm still old school. Like I still like holding my book
Yeah,
and
yeah,
flicking
same
through the
here.
page.
Even I have
Yeah,
Kindle,
so
but I purchase the paperback version because I just
yeah,
feel I feel more involved in the book by
yes,
reading, yeah, reading the hard copy,
yeah,
the physical copy. Yeah, yeah. But
definitely.
do you think a writer can earn a livelihood, like a very normal writer, not someone who has become famous or someone who is
Mm.
completely into it, but someone who has just started out? Can writing uh, be a viable career option?
See, that's something that I had to face myself. So that's why I created my whole company, which is education, arts, and charity. So
Hmm.
because I didn't know if writing is going to feed me for the rest of my life, like I hope it does. But I had to think a little bit about my strengths. So that's why I still tutor mathematics. Like I have my podcast series. I have to do much more than just write to get myself out there. Like you have your
Hmm.
Instagram pages. Like I'm a poet, spoken word artist by nature. Like I write plays, write scripts. So
Yeah, those things.
that's
Yeah, true, true.
yeah. So I had to branch out and think that, oh, if I just write books, will that feed me for the rest of my life? I think that it's an you can have that as your goal, you can have that as your wish, but
Hmm.
your dream, let's say. But for me, I had to be more realistic. Like I had to think like what am I good at? And luckily for me, I've been a math teacher my whole life. So, well, not the whole life, for the last 7 8 years of my life. So
Hmm.
that really helps support. I still tutor mathematics, like I said, and having a few strings to your bow will always help you in the longer run. So that's how I did it myself. Um, and I think probably a lot of writers will probably not just write. I think they'll probably still have jobs and this and that to do to support them, because like you said, it is difficult to break through and be successful and then write for the rest of your life. And then
mm,
obviously it's again that you have to write, you have to keep producing content too. And writing books takes time, you know, it takes
yeah.
research, it takes
And it's
real deep
something like,
thinking.
if it's a failure, like, the journey is always amazing, but if it's financially not doing well, it's like one entire year or couple of years just gone. uh, it's
Yeah.
quite, yeah, the risk is greater than the reward in this business, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. Like again, I remember the writer who wrote The Alchemist. I don't want to say his name because I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but
Mm.
it took him like 14, 15 years for that book to go viral, you know, to get famous, you know. So
Yeah.
imagine like how and that's just one person with one book, and there's so
Mm.
many stories of those instances. So there is a little bit element of luck there as well. And
Yeah, yeah,
also
of
it's
course, of course,
like, and also again, even if you do make money, like it doesn't, I don't think it can ever offset the amount you put into the book. Like there's so much energy, so much mental capacity, so much of your spirit lives through
yeah.
each page, you know. So again, and it's a thankless task really, because some people may just flick through it, some people won't even read a page, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
I think, and
a
it's
interesting
same
experience.
with every art form, like making
Mm,
movies or doing some painting. For all everything, the risk is way more bigger than the reward, but the journey is way more sweeter than maybe
yeah,
in some other profession. So that's the specialty
definitely,
of art.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And I also think that art is so important as well. You know, like art, it may be thankless at times, but when done right, like it's inspirational. You know, so
Hmm.
who knows? Like maybe in my book diary program, maybe 5 years time, 10 years time, 20 years time, I'll start seeing the rewards, or maybe even after I'm not here anymore. So that's what you have
Yeah.
to have, that long term vision, and you have to just keep going.
Hmm. True, true. Yeah. It was an amazing, amazing podcast.
Oh,
And
thank you, Jay.
yeah. And anything else you want to share, like any special tips for the beginners or any writers who are like stuck or are confused in writing? In short,
Yeah,
like
I
any
think
tips?
so. For, number one, I'd say clarity. Um,
Yes. The
Plan,
vision that
know what
what
you're
you
going to
want. Yeah,
write.
yeah, true, true. Yeah.
100% vision. Like, who are you as a writer as well? Like, for example, I wanted to be a rapper when I was younger, and now I'm writing books and writing poetry rather than rapping. So
Yeah.
that took me time to find out who I am. I think with this Instagram age, people write one poem and they put it on Instagram and they get followers and stuff. But it's for me, I had to wait how many years? So 8 years for me to really know my craft before I really start sharing on Instagram and on YouTube and stuff like that. And that
Mhm.
was because for me the craft was more important than me being famous or stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, true. Because I think
from
it's
that,
the thing is it's very much dependent on the luck too. Like even if you do well, even if you perform or produce a great art, uh, it's really not necessary that it might just blow up and become successful. It's a lot of luck
exactly.
is involved. Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I think also though, like if you do one thing, just say you're lucky, you do one thing and it blows up, right? Can you do it
Hmm.
again? Can you do it again? Can you do it again? Like, can you recreate that 100 times?
So
And I
it's
feel
more
like
important to
for me,
just enjoy what you are doing rather than thinking about the success or the, yeah.
yeah, I think there's two things. First, you have to enjoy it 100%, and you have to
Hmm.
put away the rewards. But again, like I think for somebody who considers himself an artist, like you have to you have to be respectful to your craft. So reproducing your performances again and again and again and again and again is the sign of a true artist. And to be able to reproduce, you have to put in the work. And that's
Hmm.
why it took me like 7 8 years of working at my craft every single day and not sharing to the world, you know, not telling people what I'm up to. Maybe my friends and my family, but not putting things on Instagram and not like putting things on YouTube, because I didn't feel like I was at the top of my game at that
Hmm.
moment. And now I feel like I can write or I can rhyme at any given moment on any given day, because it's a skill rather than just an idea. So I
Yeah.
would say definitely like work on the craft and fall in love with it, all the pitfalls. And when it comes to writing, like I think what you said as well is so important. Like you have to enjoy it. Like you have to really enjoy it, and you have to somehow block out all the negativity as well, because so many people have told me that, oh, you're not going to finish the book, or it's not going to be
Yeah,
successful,
I think the
or what
self
you doing.
doubt and the inferior
Oh yeah,
complex is really high for writers,
yeah,
I
hundred
feel.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. Like I face self doubt all the time, and it's worse when the people around you are doubting you as well.
Yeah.
And lucky, and I'm so lucky that my mom and dad and my sister in particular, like she was
Mm.
there for me throughout the whole journey, and she believed in me sometimes more than I believed in me, which really helped me. And obviously, because I have a guru in my life, and he has
Yeah, that makes
always
a huge
encouraged me to
difference.
write.
True, true.
He always has encouraged me to write. He has always put me on stage when I wasn't supposed to be on stage. He told me to go around the whole world with him. So like that just gave me that, no matter if I just have him in my life, it doesn't matter. So with all the, and also I think on a practical level, don't be
Mm.
afraid to have your work seen by people, because what I learned as well, like, is to be detached from my words a little bit, and it's taken me a long time to get there. But once I've written something and I've given it out, it no longer is mine. Now it becomes somebody else's
Yeah.
work, right? Because at the end of the day, when they read it, it will be their interpretation of your words. So, like for example, Diary of a Pilgrim, I had three editors. Like one was for my grammar and punctuation, one was for my concepts, and one was for my
Mm.
overall themes. And then I gave it out to two other people as well throughout the process from different sides of the world, just to go over it again, just to see it from a different perspective and see what they see, and
Mm.
be open to criticism, because at the end of the day, the work is more important than my feelings. Like like one of my friends told me, like, yeah, it's great, but it's not finished. And I was like, whoa. And then I was like, okay, fine, I need to write more. And having that ability to be a bit thick-skinned, and
Mm.
just to make sure that the work is complete, that has to be the
Yes.
priority, rather than me as an individual. The art is more important than how I feel. So yeah, I think those few tips are benefited me a lot, and it's something that I still work on every single day. But
Mm.
essentially, like, enjoy the journey. At the end of the day, if one person benefits from your work, that you've done a wonderful job. So be detached from the results as well.
Yeah. True, true. Absolutely. It was really amazing that the things that you have shared, and it's really helpful. And it
Oh,
was.
thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
Anytime, man. Thank you so much for letting me have this platform to speak about my book.
Yeah. Thank you so much.